I'm over here talking with my mic muted.
Amend the Mass Media Group is California Capital's premier YouTube channel focused on reparations, dedicated to political advocacy and apologetically aimed at shining a spotlight on our righteous justice claim for reparations. Tune in to ETM Media Group YouTube channel Tuesdays at 9 p.m. PST.
We do show intros, show outros, voiceover, script copy, 15 and 30-second promos. Check us out at etmmediagroup.com. That's etmmediagroup.com for more info and updates and to get involved. I was about to say something, and I noticed my mic was on mute. And so is CO, so we can't hear you.
Hey,
What are you going to say, Moya?
I was going to say, welcome back. $450,000. And let's see what black folk has gotten in the past 400 years. So that's the topic of today.
That is the topic. All right. Before we get into it, do we want to see what's been in the news this week?
Let's go. Drug kingpin Alpo Martinez shot dead in New York City drive-by. A notorious drug dealer from New York City who served decades in prison for murder and was in witness protection for testifying against his associates was slain on a Harlem Street corner in his truck Sunday morning, police sources said. Alberto, quote, Alpo, end quote, Martinez, a drug kingpin who was portrayed by Cameron in the 2002 movie Paid in Full, was killed in a drive-by shooting as he sat in his 2017 Dodge Ram at 147th Street and Frederick Douglass Boulevard around 3:30 a.m., cops said. He was shot 5 times.
Now I'm going to have to rewatch Paid in Full, did you say, was it?
Yeah, I can't remember if I have ever seen them. I think I have seen it, but I have to definitely go back to watch it again. It'll definitely give a different perspective after this story.
Yeah. Japan's Joker assailant wanted to kill lots of people. Tokyo Reuters. A drifter who admired the Joker from Batman and dressed as him to carry out a Halloween attack on a Tokyo train wanted to kill lots of people and planned his moves over months, buying a knife to use in the internet, police and media said on Tuesday. The stabbing and arson attack, which briefly set fire flaring through flaring and train carriage was carried out on Sunday night as many partygoers were headed into Tokyo for Halloween celebrations and sent passengers screaming down the aisles of train carriages and scrambling out of windows to escape. One man in his 70s remains in serious condition with stab wounds to his torso, and 16 others were treated for minor injuries, mostly smoke inhalation, a police spokesman said. Kaito Hattori, 24, dressed in multicolored clothing as the Joker, was arrested on the spot and later told investigators, "I wanted to kill lots of people. I wanted the death penalty," the police spokesperson added.
Man, what is going on with Halloween? So looks
Yeah, good thing he didn't get his wish, and most people seem to be okay.
yep.
Yeah, you do a lot less damage with a knife than you do a gun, and they have extreme strict regulations with gun control out there. So fortunate for those people.
Well,
Speaking of guns, our next story.
unlike the United States of America, I
Yes,
was going to say
as compared
snakes,
to the U.S.
but I'll keep it politically correct. All right, so looks like there was a shooting on Halloween at Joliet Township, Illinois. The cleanup continued Monday at a Joliet Township. I'm sorry, I keep wanting to say toilet because it looks like toilet to me, but I think it's Joliet or Joliet, so I'm gonna say Joliet Township home where an out of control Halloween party turned deadly early Sunday morning. Witnesses said the shooting took place in the 1000 block of East Jackson Street in the backyard of a home. It was supposed to be a small group of people, a group of friends, but word got out and things turned left real fast, said Bobby Moore, a neighbor who attended the party. Moore said the gathering spread on social media as a small party quickly ballooned into 200 people just after 12:30 on Sunday. Several gunshots rang out. I returned to my group of friends and said, "Get on the floor. We were too close to the shooters," Moore recalled. I looked back and seen the poor girl laying on the floor. The girl he saw was Holly Matthews, the 22-year-old who had just gotten engaged 2 weeks ago, was killed. Jonathan Ceballos, 22, was also killed, and 12 others were shot when two men standing on the porch fired into the crowd. Some neighbors believed it all could have been avoided if police responded to their calls earlier in the night. If you get several calls, why wouldn't you go and check and make sure everything is okay? Neighbor Natalia Herrera said. Herrera said her family called twice, as did many other neighbors who saw the party getting out of control. People just kept coming and coming. There were too many people standing on the street, Herrera said. Anyone with information, cell phone pictures or video, or the party or potential suspect information is urged to contact the Will County Sheriff's Office at 815-727-8574, extension 4930, or via email at dstrohm@willcosheriff.org. Looks like someone who may have any information can leave an anonymous tip at the Will County Sheriff's website. That's willcosheriff.org. Enforcement/submit a crime tip, or on the Will County Sheriff's Office app that is available in, looks like, iOS or set Apple, I think, iTunes and Android. You can also contact Will County Stoppers by telephone at 800-323-6734 or at crimestoppersofwillcounty.org/submit a tip.
What a tragedy. Must have been on a donut break, is why the slow response. All right. Major California city becomes the most unaffordable housing in America. And that city is the one that we currently live in, Yamoya here.
Woohoo.
Sacramento, California is at the top of the list for the United States least affordable new homes market. A study examining household incomes and comparing them with median new home construction mortgages found that California capital trying are tying with Miami, Florida. 80% of the households in Sacramento region, same as Miami, are priced out of new homes, with a study from real estate technology firm not found. The median new construction home price in the Sacramento region is $650,000, which means residents need an income of about $128,000 to afford an average down payment of $39,000. The median household income in the area is $76,706, according to the report. This year, California reported its first yearly population decrease for the first time in the state's history. All in, California's population fell by more than 182,000 in 2020. Many have cited the state's high taxes and how it is not affordable for families.
Yeah, it looks like you need that executive level money. I don't think you can if you're doing Uber or Lyft. I think you're gonna be making that type of income, right?
Or you need that 450K reparations check from Biden. That'll get you part way there.
Elderly Oak Park woman faces losing her home. The realities of the intense gentrification of the city of Sacramento's oldest neighborhood could effectively put a 71-year-old grandmother and her janitorial worker out on the streets. Wanda Clark's home in South Oak Park is in court appointed receivership because of housing code violations, and the dwelling located right off 14th Avenue can be auctioned off after November 3rd if the proceedings are not halted. The city has been constantly penalizing me, and at this point, they decided they are tired of dealing with me, Clark said before an October 13th news conference in front of the House. Now they would like to tear my home down and use all my equity in my home. As we speak, at the end of their project, I will have nothing, no home, no money, and I will be put on the streets. As the undesirable situation worsens, Clark's property could easily fall into the hands of real estate developers that could finance a luxurious home or two right off 14th Avenue near Highway 99.
Sacramento, California, gentrification 101.
Yep.
Judge halts sale of apartment complex where black graves were buried beneath parking lot. A community coalition in Maryland has provided overwhelming evidence that a portion of a suburban Washington apartment complex was used as a burial ground for freed black slaves and their descendants, and many bodies likely still remain on the property. A state judge ruled Monday in a case by a group to thwart the sale of the property. The Montgomery County Housing Opportunities Commission's pending $50 million sale of Westwood Tower in Bethesda, a local investment firm, Charger Ventures, drew intense public opposition over the summer and led to the lawsuit filed by Bethesda African Cemetery Coalition. The group had furnished historical accounts indicating the gravesite known as Moses Cemetery was paved over with asphalt for a parking lot when the apartments went up in the late 1960s. The coalition accused the commission of violating state law by failing to get court approval for the apartment complex to sell, which is normally required when cemetery property is involved. Judge Carla Smith of Montgomery County Circuit Court denied a motion by the commission seeking to dismiss the suit while granting a preliminary injunction to halt the sale.
Yay. Thank you, Judge, for that.
Yes, thanks for that. But how disrespectful.
Yeah, how disrespectful that is. And shout out to D de los Muertos, also known as the Dead. And in our case, it looks like the ancestors were speaking through the judge. So thanks again, Judge, for that.
Ancestors working overtime.
Facebook rebrands as Meta in new focus on metaverse. Facebook has changed its name to Meta in a shift away from social media and towards developing the metaverse, a digital world that could be the next generation of the internet. Here's what they have planned. Social media giant Facebook is changing its name to Meta as part of a rebrand meant to highlight the company's new focus on developing the metaverse. From now on, we are going to be metaverse first, not Facebook first, CEO Mark Zuckerberg said Thursday. A week after teasing the news of the name change, Zuckerberg made the announcement on Thursday in a keynote address at Facebook Connect, the company's annual in house virtual reality conference. The 37-year-old founder has spent much of the past year talking up, up this pivot. He has said he expects people will one day know Facebook as a metaverse company more than a social network. Zuckerberg describes the metaverse, which he sees as the next generation of the internet, as a virtual environment that will allow people to be present with each other in digital spaces. Within the metaverse, you're going to be able to hang out, play games with friends, work, create, and more. The CEO said in a recent earnings call, you're basically going to be able to do everything that you can on the internet today, as well as some things that don't make sense on the internet today, like dancing.
Hmm. CO, I know you're not a Facebooker, but are you excited about the metaverse being a gamer?
Um, no, I just don't trust anything that comes from this company. The way there's a like the reason I'm intentionally not a Facebooker, because of how they use our data, because of how they spy on us, because of the amount of information that they sell on us without us even needing to buy into a lot of it. Like some of it, yeah, it came later. Um, but really just their approach, they just feel like that company. They're turning into that company and like Terminator. They're just gonna take over the world, and I don't support it, even for
Yeah,
gaming.
So
yeah,
you think this
Facebook is
transition is
trying.
going to be worse, going from Facebook
Oh,
to metaverse?
oh, absolutely. It's just expanding their reach. And he's making it very clear, like, I remember, like, I'm about to date myself, but I remember Facebook when you had to have an EDU to get into it, right? It was specifically and only about like connecting. And then over time it morphed, which a lot of companies do, and I expect that. But they morphed into a company now that is so far from where they started, but they are pulling their people along with them. We don't have the opportunity to opt in. So even though I'm not a Facebook anymore, even though I dumped my account years ago, they still track me, right? They still track the things that I'm doing, whether I and individuals who have Facebook, they track you whether you're using Facebook or not, right? And you can't opt out of that. So the amount of they have literally turned us into the batteries or into the users, like as if we were the like drug dealers, I mean, as if they were the drug dealers and we're the folks like taking their drug. They steal so much from us, more than most people recognize. I just can't support them. They're literally an evil like corporation, and I just can't get back behind them anymore.
Well, CEO, you mentioned EDO. Can you explain what EDO is, please?
EDO.
I
She
think.
said EDU. Are you
Oh,
talking
I'm sorry.
about
Oh
educational?
yeah,
The
when you
EDU.
had when you had to
I'm
be in
looking
school, like you had to have
at-
a
Got you.
school email address in order to have Facebook.
So education is
Yeah.
right. Short for education. Got you. Okay.
That's how it all started out.
Okay, so it's a no for Wastebook for you.
It's a absolutely no.
All right. So yeah. So I think so. They had the dot edus, right?
Exactly. The
The email
.edus.
addresses, right? Okay.
Mhm.
All right. Cool. Thanks for the clarification. Did I Yeah, I did that one, right? Is your turn?
Yeah, yeah, that was you. That was you. That was you. All right. Black woman fired for wearing natural hair instead of a wig, Louisiana lawsuit says. Amani Jackson spent 45 minutes a day putting a cap over her naturally curly hair and gluing a wig with straight hair in its place, according to federal documents. One day she stopped. Instead of the wig, Jackson, who is black, began wearing her natural hair in a neat bun, attorney said. Within a month, she was fired. Now, the federal agency tasked with safeguarding and enforcing anti discrimination laws in the workplace is suing the company accused of terminating her, saying the action was racially motivated. According to the complaint, Jackson was referred to American Screening for Sales position by a staffing company. She interviewed with the owner and the human resources manager on August 2nd, 2018, and started working there 11 days later. On October 8th, 2018, the owner took notice of Jackson's change of hairstyle and told someone in human resources to talk to her about looking more professional, the complaint states. The owner reportedly said she came in with beautiful hair, but now it looks like she rolls out of bed. Attorneys for the EEOC said the company owner told Jackson her hair was unacceptable and that she needed to wear a wig instead. But Jackson did not resume wearing the wig, and she was fired on October 18, 2018. Jackson filed a charge of discrimination with the EEOC shortly after she was fired.
Wow.
So that happened in 2018, but it's just gaining traction now in the news. So hopefully she's getting close to getting a huge settlement.
Yeah, I think every black person should just go to work just with their head wild. I'm talking about on the news for the news anchors. I know the basketball players, they wild anyway. They just doing whatever. But I just say, fam, go in there, make your hair wild as you possibly can. So anyway, out in California, they probably don't give a dang anyway, but they're just like, oh, that's California. But anyway,
Well,
Yeah,
California,
that
that's why California had to pass the
the
Crown
crown.
Act.
around that, right?
So California ain't innocent. Let's not
It's
get it
not, and there's
twisted.
only a few states that actually passed the Crown Act. The Crown Act. There, it is legal to fire folks based on their hair in several states.
Man, that's
Most
crazy.
states. Yeah, it's ridiculous.
Now, I
But
can understand if you're working in a restaurant or some kind of food safety capacity and you have to wrap your hair, regardless if it's, has kinks or straight hair, you have to wrap it up. I understand that, but in that particular case, in that particular instance, I hope, man, she gets paid.
Yes, you need to.
All right. So, oh, hell nah. Ice Cube reportedly walks away from 9 million movie project due to his vaccine mandate. And by the way, oh hell nah, I'm sorry, oh hell no, it's actually a movie. So Ice Cube didn't say oh hell no to the, I'm not even going to use the V word, but we'll just say the shot or the jab, the juice, whatever you want to call it. So anyway, Ice Cube's latest project, Oh Hell No, will have to go on without him after the rapper turned actor gave a similar response when he asked to take COVID-19 shot as part of the film's vaccine mandate. Unidentified sources close to the situation told the Hollywood Reporter that Cube refused to fulfill the request of producers to get vaccinated, subsequently walking away from a reported 9 million payout.
Yeah, to jab or not to jab. This really is starting to separate, or it's already been. I shouldn't say starting to separate the community. Really, everybody to choose sides on how do you feel, how do you not feel. You cool with it or you not cool with it. Like folks are losing their job. Folks are being asked to leave. There's a lot that's going on right now around this. So I am not surprised. And I'm interested to see how this plays out. How many more actors are gonna walk away from millions of dollars on the table because they refuse to get vaccinated?
yeah, it will be interesting to see how this all plays out. So that's in the news.
Man, I swear we had more in the news. No, that was it.
That was it.
Man,
I mean, there's a lot going on. There could have been a lot more. I mean, bunch of crazy stuff going on.
yeah, that is nuts. Yeah, there's been a lot of, how can I call it? Maybe feedback from certain individuals that are like, I'm just absolutely not going to fall into the whole paradigm of having, or at least revealing that I have or have not taken the shot, you know?
Yeah, I mean, I'm just over it. I mean, I think it should be like I said, don't ask, don't tell. It really ain't nobody's business what your medical status is.
That
If
part.
you're vaxxed, you should feel secure in your protection, even though you can still get COVID and you can still pass it. But I mean,
Absolutely.
you know, so
All right, folks. So shall we get into it? So,
let's do it.
so let's see. The topic today is 40K. And all right, we're back. 40K and Sleepy on reparations. 400 years, family. Just more evidence on why you/we need to keep the foot on the gas.
Just a quick pop in 450K.
Yeah.
450.
Yeah. So I think the article that we do have to explain the 450K will actually talk about what that means and not just per child, but whoever got affected within the family. So it could actually be more than one person, not just 450K per family. Could actually be like 450K per injured person within the family. But we'll get into that. All right. So before we actually talk about the $450,000, or supposedly what's going to happen with the $450,000, let's see what's going on in the election season right now. Looks like today, 2021, it looks like polls closed in Virginia. Looks like there was a governor's race there. Voters in, let's see, I can't really see the top there because there's like this timing thing going over it. So please forgive me, fam. So I'm kind of read past that. But it looks like Eric Adams won the ranked choice Democratic primary in June and is expected to win the heavily blue city. Voters in, oh, wait, hold on. That's page one. We need to go to, there you go. All right. Page one. That was page two. Okay. Page one. The Democratic Terry McAuliffe is hoping to win back the Virginia governor's mansion on Tuesday, but standing in the way of a second term is Republican Glenn Youngkin's surge in recent weeks. Polls closed at 7 p.m. in Virginia. According to exit polls, education and school curriculum, the two issues Youngkin has focused extensively on in the closing weeks of the campaign, were the top issues motivating Youngkin voters. Just over half of all voters said parents should have a lot of say in what is taught in their school, whereas 8 in 10 Youngkin voters said parents should have a lot of say. Mr. Biden and former President Trump both loomed large over voters too, though with over half saying Mr. Biden is a factor in the race. More Virginia voters disapproved of Mr. Biden's performance as president, with 56% saying that disapprove and 43% saying they approve. Youngkin has tried to keep Mr. Trump at arm's length, and Virginia voters, including Youngkin voters, continue to view him negatively. 1 in 5 Youngkin voters have a negative opinion of the former president. New Jersey's Democratic Governor Phil Murphy is trying to win a second term and buck the state's trend against the re-electing Democrat incumbents. So that looks like what's going on in Jersey. And let's see what's going on in Boston. Voters in Boston will be choosing between two women of color. Interesting. which will be the first time the city will be represented by someone other than a white man. In Buffalo, New York's second largest city, Democratic Socialist India Walton defeated Mayor Byron Brown, who was seeking a fifth term in the Democratic primary this summer. But Brown has launched a write-in campaign in the heavily Democratic city, and New York Governor Kathy Hochul and the Democratic Party chair have declined to endorse in the race. U.S. Senate Majority Leader Chuck Schumer endorsed Walton, as did Senator Bernie Sanders and Representative Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez, AOC. Voters in Minneapolis will not only go to the polls to elect a mayor, but also face a controversial ballot question on policing. The initiative, known as Question 2, asks Minneapolis voters to amend the city's charter by replacing the existing police with a public safety department that would prioritize a comprehensive public health approach. That's going to be interesting. If passed, the department would shift from its current model to prioritizing the expertise of public safety professionals, including social workers, mental health specialists, and experts in de-escalation. To respond to incidents in violent situations, armed police officers would still be called to respond. Minneapolis has been roiled by protests since former police officer Derek Chauvin killed George Floyd, a black man, by kneeling on his neck for 9 minutes in May 2020. In April 2021, Chauvin was convicted of second-degree murder, third-degree murder, and second-degree manslaughter. Wow, family, looks like a lot of stuff is already popping off, even before 2022 midterms. All right, so let's go into the $450,000 and what exactly this means here. So Biden administration is in talks to pay $450,000 per person to immigrants separated at the border. The U.S. Justice Department is in talks to pay hundreds of thousands of dollars to each child and parent who was separated under a Trump-era practice of splitting families at the border. A person familiar with discussions to settle lawsuits said Thursday. The Wall Street Journal first reported that the government was considering payments around $450,000 to each person affected. A person familiar with the talks told the Associated Press that the figure was under consideration, but changed, though not dramatically. The person spoke on condition of anonymity because the discussions are private. The discussions continue, and there is no guarantee the two sides will strike an agreement. About 5,500 children were split from their parents under President Donald Trump's zero tolerance policy, under which parents were separated from their children to face criminal prosecution for crossing the border illegally, according to court filings in a federal case in San Diego. Inadequate tracking systems caused many to be apart for an extended time. The payments are intended to compensate for the psychological trauma. Attorneys for the families are also seeking permanent legal status in the United States for those separated under the practice, which a judge halted in June 2018, 6 days after Trump stopped it amid an international backlash. The Justice Department did not immediately respond to requests for comment Thursday night. The settlement talks involve several law firms. The American Civil Liberties Union is representing parents in the San Diego case. The National Immigration Litigation Alliance represents 5 mothers and their children who were separated for more than 2 months, including 4 children who were sent to holding facilities in New York. A federal judge in Arizona denied the government's bid to dismiss the case last year. No amount of money can compensate for the amount of pain and suffering these parents and children endured under the unconscionable and unprecedented policy, said Trina Real Muto, I think, executive director of the National Immigration Litigation Alliance. A Justice Department Inspector General's report in January said a single minded focus on increasing immigration prosecutions came at the expense of careful and appropriate consideration of the impact of family unit prosecutions and child separations. So, yeah, family. So, what do we think about this? Call in 720-740-9699. Access code 657-2569. That's 720-740-9699. Access code 657-2569. Tell us what y'all think, family, about this $450,000.
Yeah, what comes to my mind is when these separations were happening, it was the law, right, under President Trump. So this was the law, which is the same argument we get with our reparations claim is, oh, slavery was legal, so what are you going to do? So it just seems kind of like a double standard. If Trump's word was law back then do they even have a leg to stand on? And then my second question is, what is there a mole in the White House administration? Because this anonymous person, um, you know, I just have more questions than answers right
I'm
now.
I'm with you on that one, Kim. I'm with you on that one.
Yeah,
This
wondering where this information is coming from.
this seems like a misdirect, right? Um, we can go into it at another time, but most of the policies that Trump put up that everybody was like, "Oh my gosh, get this orange man out the office." Biden has either upheld or has gone further down that route, right? So this seems like a misdirect of, "Hey, we're doing something good for those kid not the kids in cages because it's not even that for the separation of the individuals who came who immigrated to this country and who were separated from the family. It'll make us look good. It's like a feel good story if we make amends with them, right? So the story actually doesn't have that much detail. It just drops a couple of bits of information. Doesn't have a source to either cite or back up or anything like that. My guess is this is gonna go away. Um, but that's my like conspiracy. Like the U.S. is always doing some shenanigans type stuff going on.
Either go away or they'll sneak it in somehow under everybody's radar where, you
Hmm.
don't know about it. But I haven't seen anybody really come out in support of this proposal. Um,
I haven't
yeah.
either.
And I was doing some research before the show, and I don't see where Biden has even given a rebuttal. People want answers, and he's like MIA on that.
Yeah, he's
Yeah.
worrying about falling asleep. Oh, sorry.
Yeah.
I had to throw
Yeah,
that
that's why it don't
at the
seem
climate
real.
change. Yeah, at the climate summit. He was oh wait, hold on a second. I'm sorry, I had to say that. But yeah. It's
Yeah.
interesting that the hypocrisy. I mean, even that this was even mentioned, the $450,000. And I understand, I mean, it's wrong and so forth, but when you have your own citizens, your own American people that have been here for 400 years, that's not a good look, family.
It
And
is.
yeah, go ahead, Seal.
Nah, sorry, I'm all hyped up on this one. Go ahead, I'm cutting you off.
Yeah, no, we want to hear you. Go ahead.
I agree with you, like to a certain extent. Initially, when I heard about it, when I read about it, I got hot. I'm like 2 months, 2 months of separation. We've had how many generations after generations, hundreds of years, like the fabric of our disenfranchisement, of our taking advantage of everything that has gone down with our people is weaved into the fabric of this country, and we're still fighting for reparations, and we're still trying to convince people that we deserve reparations for the harm that was specifically bestowed upon us. So immediately I get hot, like, for real, y'all literally just throwing money at everybody else except for us, right? That's my initial like hot-headed lizard brain like immediate reaction. The one that follows up after that is like, yo, if I can take myself out of it, these folks were treated horribly. These folks did receive harm from the US government, and they under international law have the right to sue and have the right to have amends made for them. So I'm not mad at the folks who are like, nah, run that check, because y'all literally took our kids. Like, we came here legally, we came to the border, we surrendered ourselves, we are going through the process with the I-213, we're doing what we're supposed to be doing per the laws of the US of A, and you took my kids from me and you lost them in the system, like, for real, like, so I get it. But I am hot, like, I am literally hot that it is so easy for our government to take care of folks who are not living within the government. Like, it's it doesn't, like, it still baffles me a little bit, but that's how deeply intertwined, like, anti-blackness is in everything that the USA does. That they will literally very quickly, they have a number immediately, right? And that 450, Yamoya, as you read, will not only go to the child, but it will also go to the parent. So that if you have just a single parent family, they're getting close to $1 million, right? If they have multiple kids, if there's multiple parents, that cash could be stacked if the government goes through with this. It's a big if, because we know me and my conspiracy theories. But yeah, I feel some kind of way. I feel some kind of
Yeah,
way.
I mean, you're right. When I first saw it, I felt the exact same way, and I was up in arms and on social media talk about this. Tells me everything I need to know about anti-blackness in America. Because how are you gonna let somebody just jump the line, leapfrog? We've got this justice claim. I understand that these other people might have, a claim as well, but how are you gonna take care of one group's claim when you owe a debt to this other group? I mean, you need to start paying down reparations, and their payout might come decades down the road, like, you know ours, they just have to wait, is how I feel. You have an active justice claim, we're calling for reparations, and you got money for everything else but.
Yeah, shout
So
out to Darlene. Darlene says, and didn't have to provide any.
didn't have to
Talk
provide a
about it.
study.
Talk
Yeah,
about it.
knows exactly who it's going to. Ain't no questions there. So yeah, it's just a disrespect for me.
It's that. And I was also curious, did they actually find all the kids? Because I know way back when there was a deadline set where they had to reunite the lost kids with their parents, and that deadline came and passed, and only like a handful of them had. I'd have to go back and
I'm
look it up.
not.
I
I,
don't
I
know.
did hear an NPR report a couple months about that, but I didn't recall ever hearing that all of the families were actually placed
Uh-uh.
together again. I didn't hear anything about that. So, but we know, at least as we're concerned, our ancestors go. We know that we've been misplaced since we first got here.
Talk about it. Generations of misplaced folks. Generations of folks separated from their families when they used to just take our women and farm them out so that they would just create more slaves and ship their babies all over, sell them. Come on.
And then
Yeah, and I mean, I even see mass incarceration is separating families, splitting families up,
and
and
Jim
then you
Crow.
come back out, and you know, your family structure is damaged. What the word they use? Psychological damage,
I know, right?
all of that.
We had
Yeah,
psychological and physical and systemic, and still do. Like none
still
of it's
do.
changed.
Ain't nothing changed at all.
Yeah, it's crazy when you think about just some of the injustices that we've gone through, and just no anything, no apology, no like, okay, let's think about helping you. I mean, HR 40's been out there since the early 80s, maybe mid 80s, and it recently came back up. It's crazy when you think about, like we've been here for all this time, and to have, all these, and not to say that other these groups, as CL says, don't deserve it and shouldn't get it, but as you mentioned, Kim, like, you have to take care of your people first. That's the only thing that I see. That's what family usually does, right? They're like, hey, we fam, we're gonna take care of you, right? But the way that America's acting, towards black people, are we truly your family?
Ain't
I
never
don't know.
been.
That's a question.
Yeah, when someone first sent me the article and asking me how I felt about it, and I was like, it's almost scary, how we're just not protected, not valued, not, respected. I was like, this is getting scary.
Yep. Well,
I'm not.
we have some more slides to go, but we actually have 15 minutes left. So I don't know, maybe we can hold that off, because I think at the end of the year we actually want to do a whole report card on the Biden administration, and there are some slides that actually we could hold off until that. So maybe we can hold off on that, but maybe we can run that clip. You got that clip, Kim, of AOC
Okay, you want
somewhere
to see
somewhere
the one where she
there.
is the biggest proponent of this reparations is what she calls it for these illegal immigrants.
And deported their families and permanently traumatized these children. These things are barbaric and they're wrong. Those families are owed reparations, period.
Tucker, your thoughts?
It's just interesting to come to a place where a low IQ race baiter like that has an important voice in national policy. Like, who cares what she thinks? Like, she's totally reckless, and she's a racist, like, openly. I think the key to this, though, is to think clearly about what's best for the United States. Obviously, the border policy now is a disaster. To be fair, it's been a disaster for a long time. It doesn't serve the interests of most Americans. And it won't, because people like that use the magic word, which is racism, to cow the rest of the country into submission. She wants to change the population. She wants her party to be more powerful. I get it. But we're allowing her and people like her to do that because we're afraid of being called names. Until decent people, like, shed their fear of being smeared by someone whose opinion you really shouldn't care about, then we're never going to have a rational immigration policy that helps everybody. And one last thing, how does it help Ecuador or El Salvador or Guatemala or any of the countries from which these people are coming to have your most ambitious people leave? It's a disaster for them, too, and for us. It doesn't help any good person to have this kind of uncontrolled migration into our country. I don't care whatever that woman's name is thinks, and no one should care what she thinks.
The
Wow.
disrespect out of this dude's mouth.
Wow, you really pulled up Tucker Carlson out of everybody who, like, had the nerve to actually call AOC racist.
Ooh.
Man, he's like the epitome of racist. Like, dang, that's nerve. But I mean, maybe he had some valid point. I mean, what do you think? Do you think he had any valid points at all?
I think he, excuse me. I think he has the. I hate to even say this, but there's a. I'm not even gonna say it. There's a validity in the commentary that a country's biggest and brightest are leaving. That it's draining. There's brain drain happening in that country, right? That makes sense to me. It makes sense to me though that if most people who are coming and surrendering to themselves at the border, they're not coming because they're the best and the brightest and they're trying to get jobs in America. They're coming because and they're claiming asylum, which means that they're basically is some terror, their life is threatened. Like there's a list of reasons of why you can claim asylum. But most of the individuals who are coming here are coming who are the best and the brightest, or who are coming here seeking for work or stuff like that, are coming in a different manner than just on foot and surrendering themselves at the border, which by the way is completely legal. Like that is part of the immigration process. There are multiple ways to do it. You can apply in your home country and wait to get a word, or you can come to America if you're seeking asylum specifically. You can come to America and show up at an airport or show up at a proper like patrol spot and surrender yourself, and then there's a process that starts.
Okay. Well, what happened with the Haitians? Why wasn't it the same process?
It should have been, but the way the media and the rhetoric that they're using, they're all twisting everything around, right? So the Haitians literally, to me, have proper reasoning as to why they are seeking asylum. Now,
Well, they got a
we
one-way
know
ticket back to their country.
that's because the US is racist as crap. We know why, because they are black and our anti-blackness runs deep, right? So even though many of those Haitian folks who are leaving because of the civil unrest that happened, with their president being murdered, with the earthquakes that have come through, with the U.S. and multiple other first world quote unquote countries going in and raping the bejesus out of Haiti and stripping away their resources and doing a whole bunch of stuff to that country. There's reason why I understand why folks are wanting to leave and wanting to get out and wanting to seek asylum, and they should have been able to go through the proper process. But we know the US and we know the folks in charge, and we saw all of the images of the folks on horses whipping folks, telling them to stay back and trying to stop them from entering in. The US has laws, but they're only enforced when the people in power want them to be enforced, and only to who the individuals they want them to be enforced to.
So does Haiti have a lawsuit? Could they file a lawsuit?
So I would say yes. I am not an immigration lawyer though, so I would defer to someone who studies this and who knows this, right? Like my role, my seat is in entertainment. I can talk to you more about that. But since we legally I'm trying to think of the name of it. The In 1951 there was a refugee conference, and out of it came a 1967 protocol, and part of that protocol, which is international law, so it's not just the US, is like describes that ability to come and seek asylum, and that most no country is supposed to send you back if your life is truly threatened, right? So technically speaking, yeah, like the Haiti can take us up to the UN, but the US owns the UN. Like we control all of the votes there, so there's really no point. The UN only doesn't bend to our will because we literally control it. Um, but the question you're asking about the law and about reparations, like according to international law, reparations refers to the process and result of remedying damage or harm caused by an unlawful act. So my question to an immigration lawyer, to sort of circle back around, my question to an immigration lawyer was it unlawful for the US to separate the parent and the child? Because if it wasn't unlawful, then they don't have a claim for reparations, right? They might have a claim, a civil claim, for pain and suffering, but they don't have a claim for reparations according to international law. But that's a question I need to ask an immigration lawyer.
Wow. Yeah, I mean, Kim, you bring up a valid point about the Haitians coming over. And we don't, I mean, let's think about it though. I mean, how many stories do you hear this from quote unquote black people, quote unquote brown people coming from, the borders of Mexico, right? I mean, you don't hear a lot of this riffraff coming from Canada,
Yo.
You don't hear a lot of this riffraff people coming over from Europe to the United States.
India,
Why is it
China.
from,
Mhm.
black people, who Haitians coming up, and why is it quote unquote brown people? A lot of these people, when I'm saying color, we have a huge anti-blackness and colorism globally here, because a lot of these people are brown people. Like, let's just keep it real. You don't see a lot of quote unquote light skinned people, so it's unfortunate that we still are in a colorism society, and especially in America, it's anti-black for sure. We actually have 5 minutes left, family.
We've
think
got one more
we
clip
got
since
one
we're
more
talking
clip.
about black people. Maybe this will help us figure out who those black people are.
what as a political cost, let's say, of saying we're going to throw your hat in with a program like reparations. How much do you think those considerations should be made?
Well, it's a good question. I think that one of the things that we've seen from early polling actually is that I think that we should distance ourselves and start getting away from this idea that we should only care about ourselves. Because when we really do start to assert and believe and understand and see how our destinies are tied, we kind of get away from this idea that only people of color care about other people of color and only white people care about other white people and so on. There are a lot of systems that we have to dismantle, but also it does get into this interesting area of where we are as a country about identity, because what does it mean to be Black? Who is Black and who isn't, especially as our country becomes more biracial and multiracial. Same thing with being Latino. Same thing. It brings up all these questions of passing and things like that. But I do think it is important that we have to have substantive conversations about race beyond what is racist and what is not. And if someone says something racist, does that make them racist? We need to get away from talking. Well, not that we have to get away from talking about racism. It's important that we talk about racism, but because we talk about racism so much, we actually aren't talking about race itself. And we aren't educating ourselves about our own history to come to the conclusions that I think we need to come to.
Did she just say there is some confusion about what is Black, who is Black? Maybe I missed that.
I got a little. Her response sounded a little convoluted to me, and maybe I just need to go back and re-listen to it again. So I didn't
No,
necessarily
I
follow all of that.
listened to it a few times today, and it remains convoluted no matter how many times you listen to it. But all her talk about getting away from race or only liking your your own race or people who look like, she riding hard for her people, for the Hispanics and reparations. And when you ask her about Black reparations, she don't even know who Black. So she's talking out the side of both sides of her mouth.
What was the question? Do you know what was the question that was asked to her?
Not really. Something about in terms of reparations, what her thoughts were on that. And that's when the word salad just,
Yeah, she definitely fumbled around a bit.
Started spitting that word salad.
Yeah, it was crazy word salad. I mean, she was just chopping it oh, I'm sounding it. Chop, chop, chop. Man, yeah, I was getting confused after a while. I was like, man, LC, you going deep, but too deep for me. But yeah, that was crazy. It's very interesting when people talk about reparations for Black people, because it's a simple question. Do you think Black people should get reparations or not? And it's easy, sure, yes, or no. I don't think Black people should get reparations. It's easy. And when people start fumbling around and trying to figure out what to say, you're just and I don't know who is Black. And that's, shout out to Dr. Darity for really creating at least some foundation, some form of, look, who is eligible to receive these reparations? Because that's what it really gets down to it, right? Not just skin color and whole, who is eligible for this, right? Because, you could have somebody, dark as the night sky to somebody, white as, milk toast or whatever, and have actually an ancestor who's been harmed from enslavement in this country. So I think when people talk the way that she did, and especially when they're politicians, it it's really scary.
Tiptoeing, trying to
When is
beat
she
around
up
the
for
bush.
reelection?
I know,
Speaking of
right?
elections,
I think
yeah.
a lot of folks are up for reelection in 2022.
You think her number's coming up?
I
She
know
got
we
a
have to
following.
verify that, but
She got a huge following. They still waiting for her to get old enough to run for presidency.
Oh
jeez.
gosh. I think on that note, we should probably, uh,
But we done.
cut this until the next time.
Till next
Everybody
time,
getting
family.
heated up in here. So again, we will leave you with one of these redistricting PSAs. I think redistricting is pretty much coming to an end. The maps are due. They invited the community to draw maps of districts out here in Sacramento, and those maps are due on the 7th. So we'll see what happens. Hopefully, everyone was engaged in the process, so you know what's going on. Like I said, fool around and get redistricted into a. I've been saying they're probably going to redistrict highly vaccinated neighborhoods and unvaccinated neighborhoods. You never know what these people are up to. That's why you got to keep an eye on them and stay engaged with your local political process. So until next time, fam.
But before we go, please like, share, and subscribe. Please like, share, and subscribe. Spread the news, please. That was it.
Hit that bell.
Hit that bell.
Hit the bell, fam. Bye.